This story is about during the first year of my wife and my marriage, when I was living in Taiwan and she had already moved here to Hong Kong. I've since moved here to join her. And I was very grateful that one thing about the job, when I got the job to go to Hong Kong, my wife and I, we had known each other for a couple of years, and I had proposed marriage to her, but hadn't had a date, and decided before going to Asia, before moving to separate cities, separate countries even, that it would be best to get married. I wanted to have that ring on my finger. And I'm grateful to that decision because my dad had had cancer for a while, and it was thanks to that decision that my dad was able to see us get married. And it meant so much to him. He had been really struggling with chemotherapy, and he was doing so much better, well, not at the wedding. He wasn't well enough to travel from Utah, where he lived, to Arizona, where the wedding was. But partly with my wife's encouragement, we had another sort of second wedding or reception north of Salt Lake City, Utah, where I'm from, where my family was. And he looked like he was doing so well. And we were so overjoyed to hear of his progress, as right after the wedding in July of 2010, let's see, in August, I moved to Taiwan, accepted a position doing astronomy, and my wife came here to do architecture and design for a local firm. And we had a wonderful first few months in some ways, and a very difficult time being apart, but it was wonderful being able to come here to Hong Kong and see where my wife is from. And she was able to come to Taiwan and see that wonderful country, and especially go to the southern city of Kaohsiung, where my wife has a sister and a niece. And so the group of us would travel to many wonderful places in Taiwan, and it seemed like that life was going to be pretty good. But that winter, my father, he started losing weight. And that March, a year and a half ago March, he passed away from cancer after a very strong struggle. So we made the rushed arrangements to go back to Salt Lake City, Utah, separately. My wife going from Hong Kong here, and me going from Taiwan through Japan. And so, while I was in Japan, thinking about that my wife was soon going to get on the airplane in Hong Kong and going to join me, and glad that at least, it was too bad that we hadn't figured out how to meet in either Taiwan or Japan. That didn't work out with the airline schedules. But at least I was going to get there before her. And I was thinking about this as I went to the gate. And as I walked to the gate, looking up the window, saw what I thought was our airplane. There were some workmen working on it. And I thought, why is our airplane making so much noise? Just this big noise. And then, well, the theme of tonight is going places. And when I felt the ground moving under my feet, the place I went right then was under the airplane, was under the gate bench. And I quickly noticed it seemed like everybody had copied me, because not that many people had gotten to the gate yet, and so there was enough space for every person to have his own little personal space under the gate, under the bench, while the airport was rather marvelously moving like it was supposed to. The expansion joints in and out, and the ceiling tiles moving around, and it was quite an experience that went on and on forever. But I couldn't help thinking that I was there hoping to go to my dad's funeral. I thought that I had enough time. It was Friday, funeral was Monday, so I wasn't too worried. But I also had to think, I hope people weren't getting hurt, because I knew enough earthquake science to know that the longer a quake goes on, the worse it was. And this one was going on and on forever, and it was still pretty strong for as long as it was going on. And so we finally got up. Well, actually, we had to get up twice because the moment we got up the first time, there was an aftershock that was probably stronger than the first quake and sent us under the benches for another 15 seconds. So we got up again, and finally there was an announcement. We had an earthquake, which kind of gave us all a few little chuckles. I guess they didn't really have a plan on what you say after you have an earthquake. It was kind of confirmed to us that they hadn't thought a lot about the plan, because while the airport was built really strong, they actually started putting into place an evacuation plan. They told us that we're going to go outside and we're going to wait for buses to take us away from the airport. And we were all thinking, this airport handled it pretty well. This airport's probably the safest place. So sure enough, after they had lined up all the buses, then the buses started driving away, and it was kind of getting a little bit cool in the evening, and we thought, we were hoping that they would just realize, let us back into the airport, which they did, crammed us all into one small downstairs room. And we thought, well, this isn't going to work. There's not enough place to sleep. We had to eat Ritz crackers for dinner. They hadn't thought of we figured the airport must have had plenty of food, but they weren't letting anybody back into the building. And so we had Ritz crackers. They finally declared the rest of the airport safe, and we spread out all over the airport, all finding benches to sleep on. And we spent a very eventful night of, I wish I had counted how many aftershocks, that just every so often the building would shake and move. And when you'd go to the restroom, there'd be little piles of plaster that had been kind of flexed down. And there were a few places that were roped off. But the thing that had worried me the most that evening before going to sleep is that they said all flights had been canceled. And so knew that the next day would be an adventure. And they said that we'll get back to you at 11 a.m. the next morning. So we had a lot of time in the morning just to do nothing, walk around. Fortunately, Google's internet that was provided free at the Narita airport performed marvelously without a glitch. Cell phones didn't quit. The Japanese technology, really strong. And so I was able to send a little message to my wife, and I was even able to use Skype and talk to my mom. Said, there's been an earthquake, and she said, oh, just a little bit. No, this was a huge one. This, we didn't know how long the delay was going to be. And it got a little bit scary when about getting back on time, because they kept on giving contradictory information when we were going to get rebooked. And it became clear that it's more important to the airlines to send the new people through than to get the people that are already there. It's like they've already got our money. But if they cancel somebody's flight from Guam through Japan to the Philippines, then they lose that passenger's money. That passenger will get a refund. So even someone from Guam who had volunteered to say, I can wait, please let me wait. They said, if you wait, you'll lose your ticket. And so there was some grumbling about how the process works. Not much food for the dinner, and the airline employees, we all made a point of not grumbling to them, because we had to think these Japanese people, they might have family, they might have friends. Up in, we learned it was Sendai, we learned that there had been a tsunami, but they were only talking about a few hundred having passed away, and I was afraid that it would be a lot more. So finally, at about noon, they said that there was going to be a United flight, and they were giving many announcements for many different airlines, but they said that the United flight to San Francisco, all passengers for the United flight to San Francisco, all first-class passengers could line up at gate 32. Well, I just lined up with them, and I used the reason that bereavement, going to my father's funeral, and I was grateful to the airline employees that nobody batted an eye and just processed them through. And I was grateful that there wasn't more drama as I took off from Narita Airport, looked down, and everything looked normal. Everything looked peaceful from the air. But as I was going to my father's funeral, my heart really went out to those people in Japan, and I hoped that I would have another chance to visit. And I'm grateful to be able to tell my story. That things worked out well. No, not eventful through the transfer in San Francisco. And I was very grateful in Salt Lake City to see my wife with my family. My new wife of 1 year. She had to be there without me, but I was there on time with my wife, with my mom, brothers and sisters, for my family's funeral.